110 years of absolute, undeniable, just soul-crushing mediocrity.
Which is honestly a brutally long time to be feeling.
Right. I mean, imagine being part of an organization like a national team representing your country on the global stage.
And for an entire century, you were just completely irrelevant.
Exactly. The rest of the world doesn't even view you as an underdog. I mean, they barely view you as participants.
Just making up the numbers at that point.
That is exactly how we need to start this deep dive today, because I am talking about the British cycling team.
Ah, yes. The infamous pre-2003 era.
Infamous is putting it lightly.
Yeah.
If you look at their record from 1908 to exactly 2003, British riders had won one single gold medal at the Olympic Games.
Just one.
One in nearly a century. And if you look at the Tour de France, which is the absolute pinnacle of the sport, the biggest stage in cycling.
It was somehow even worse.
So much worse. In 110 years, no British cyclist had ever won the event. Not a single time.
Yeah, the data on that is just wild.
But, okay, here is the detail from the research that absolutely stopped me in my tracks. It was so bad, like the reputation was so thoroughly entrenched in failure, that one of the top bike manufacturers in Europe explicitly refused to sell bikes to the British team.
They actually rejected their money.
Wait, think about that as a business. They rejected the money. They were terrified that if other professional cycling teams saw the British riders using their gear, it would, actively hurt their sales.
It's the absolute definition of hitting rock bottom in professional sports.
The association with this team was considered a literal brand liability.
Right, because when the people manufacturing the equipment decide that taking your money is a worse business decision than turning you away, you have reached a level of systemic failure that goes way beyond just having a few bad seasons.
Yeah.
I mean, it implies a culture that is fundamentally broken.
Broken is the perfect word. But this is where the story pivots, right?
Yeah.
From a tragedy into one of those fascinating case studies in human performance.
The Dave Brailsford era.
Exactly. In 2003, the governing body of British cycling hires this new performance director named Dave Brailsford. And what happens next? It defies all conventional logic.
It really does.
Just 5 years later, at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing, this exact same team, this former laughingstock that couldn't even buy a decent bike, wins an astounding 60% of the gold medals available across all cycling events.
60%. It's unheard of.
And then, 4 years after that, at the London Olympics, they set 9 Olympic records and 7 world records.
And that's not even getting into the Tour de France.
Right. That very same year, a rider named Bradley Wiggins becomes the first British cyclist ever to win the Tour de France.
And then Chris Froome wins it the next year.
Yeah, and the team goes on to win 5 Tour de France victories in a 6-year window. They captured 178 world championships. So the obvious screaming question is, well, how?
Right. What did Brailsford actually do?
Exactly. What on earth did he do? Did they invent a new aerodynamically impossible super bicycle? Did they undergo some highly classified, agonizing military-style training camp?
Also, no.
No. They rubbing alcohol on their tires to get a slightly better grip.
They wore electrically heated overshorts to maintain ideal muscle temperature while they were waiting to race.
They tested a dozen different massage gels to see which one helped muscle recovery a tiny fraction of a % faster.
They even hired a surgeon to teach the riders the best way to wash their hands to reduce the probability of catching a cold.
Wash their hands. And they even painted the inside of their team transport truck pristine white.
Which, on the surface, is such a bizarre and fascinating detail to focus on.
I mean, it sounds crazy.
It does, because painting the inside of a truck white has absolutely nothing to do with pedaling a bicycle or improving cardiovascular endurance or building leg strength.
So why do it?
Well, it has everything to do with spotting dust. If the inside of the transport truck is dark, dirt and grime just blend in. You can't see it. But if it's painted white, you can spot the tiny bits of dust that would normally go completely unnoticed.
And that dust matters.
Exactly. Because those tiny bits of dust, if they get into the finely tuned mechanics of the racing bikes, they can cause a microscopic amount of friction. And that friction degrades performance by a fraction of a second.
Wow.
It is the perfect illustration of our mission for today's deep dive into the source material. We're looking at James Clear's highly acclaimed book, Atomic Habits.
And what a mission it is.
We are here today to fundamentally dismantle a lie that almost all of us have been spoon-fed since childhood.
Right, the goal-setting lie.
Yes. We are going to unpack why the incredibly popular, socially celebrated concept of setting massive, ambitious goals is actually setting you up for failure.
And I know it sounds controversial, but it's true.
And conversely, we will explore how tiny, atomic-sized actions, like deciding to paint a truck white, or washing your hands a certain way, or leaving your running shoes by the door.
Tiny things.
Tiny things. How they are the true, invisible architects of your personal identity and your ultimate success.
And I want to set the stakes for you listening right now, whether you are driving or at the gym or sitting at your desk. I mean, think about your own life for a second.
Yeah, look inward.
Think about the friction you deal with every day. Why do you keep falling back into bad routines?
It's the January 1st phenomenon?
Exactly. Why is it that every single January 1st, you feel this massive surge of motivation, you set this huge, life-altering goal to lose weight or write a novel or start a business, and by, February 14th, that motivation is completely vanished?
It just evaporates.
You are back exactly where you started, feeling worse about yourself because you, quote-unquote, failed again.
Which happens to everyone.
So today, we're going to tear down the autopilot that's currently running your life in the dark.
We are going to give you the exact tools to take back the steering wheel.
We are going to show you how to stop relying on sheer, exhausting willpower and start engineering a life where success becomes inevitable.
To do that, we have to start at the foundational level, which brings us to the core philosophy that Dave Brailsford used with that British cycling team.
A 1% thing.
Yes, he called it the aggregation of marginal gains.
Aggregation of marginal gains. Okay.
The entire philosophy is rooted in searching for a tiny 1% margin of improvement in absolutely everything you do.
Just 1%.
Just 1%. Brailsford believed that if you broke down everything you could think of that goes into riding a bicycle, and then improved it by just 1%, you would get a significant increase when you put them all together.
It's just compounding.
Exactly. The math behind this is staggering, and it forms the bedrock of everything we are going to talk about today.
Okay, lay the math on me.
If you can get just 1% better each day for 1 year, you do not end up 365% better.
Right, because of the compounding effect.
Because of the compounding effect, you end up 37 times better by the time the year is done.
See, wait. Let that sink in. Not 37% better. 37 times better.
It's a massive difference.
I always have to stop and wrap my head around that because, honestly, human brains are just not wired to understand exponential growth.
No, we think linearly.
Very linearly. Like, if I take 1 step a day for 30 days, I am 30 steps away.
Exactly.
So when you hear that a 1% daily shift makes you 37 times better, it honestly doesn't even sound real until you actually look at a compound interest chart. It feels like a math trick.
It is not a trick. It is entirely real. And unfortunately, it works in reverse with just as much mathematical certainty.
Oh, right, the negative side.
If you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you decline almost all the way down to 0.
That is terrifying.
What starts as a seemingly insignificant win or a minor, completely excusable setback like skipping the gym just this once.
Or eating fast food because you were too tired to cook.
Right. It accumulates into something massive. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement.
The compound interest of self-improvement. I love that phrasing.
Just as money multiplies through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them.
Yeah.
They seem to make little difference on any given day, and yet the impact they deliver over the months and years can be enormous.
And this brings us to what I consider the most critical, just paradigm-shifting insight from the source material.
The quote.
The quote, "It completely dismantles the prevailing wisdom of the modern self-help industry." The author writes, and I quote, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems."
You fall to the level of your system.
That hits hard.
It really does.
But I really want to push back on this, or at least play devil's advocate for the listener here, because society is absolutely obsessed with goals.
Oh, entirely.
Every corporate retreat, every sports movie, every productivity guru talks about setting big, hairy, audacious goals.
Oh.
We are relentlessly outcome-oriented.
We are.
So are we really saying that having a goal to, say, lose 20 pounds or write a screenplay or save $50,000 for a house is basically useless?
Not useless, but...
Because if my daily system involves walking past a bakery on my way home from work when I'm starving, or sitting on the couch playing video games every single night to decompress, Or browsing online shopping sites whenever I feel stressed at the office. Does the goal even matter?
The goal matters, but only for direction.
Okay, direction.
It is not that goals are completely useless. It is that they are vastly overvalued compared to the systems that actually govern our daily minute-by-minute behavior.
I see.
Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that lead to those results.
Right.
Let's look at the concept of survivorship bias to understand why goals are flawed as a primary mechanism for success.
Okay, let's unpack survivorship bias.
Every Olympian wants to win a gold medal.
Right. Nobody trains to come in fourth.
Exactly. Every candidate applying for a job wants the job. If successful and unsuccessful people share the exact same goals, then the goal itself cannot be what differentiates the winners from the losers.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The goal was always there. It was only when they implemented a system of continuous small improvements that they achieved a different outcome.
That makes perfect sense.
If you were a basketball coach and you completely ignored the goal of winning a championship,
Just didn't even talk about it.
didn't talk about it, and instead you focused entirely on what your team does at practice each day, how they run drills, how they communicate on defense, how they recover after practice.
The system.
A system. Would you still get results?
I mean, the evidence overwhelmingly suggests you would.
Exactly.
I picture it like being in a rowboat out on the ocean.
Okay, a rowboat. Let's hear it.
The goal is the rudder. It points you toward the island you want to reach. You need the rudder to know where you are going, because otherwise you are just spinning in circles in the middle of the sea.
Right, you need direction.
But the system is the oars in the water. You can have the best, most perfectly calibrated rudder in the world. You can stare at that island with all the motivation, passion, and desire in your heart. You can build vision boards about the island.
Manifesting the island.
Manifesting it. But if you do not have oars consistently hitting the water, dragging you forward inch by inch, you are never going to move.
It's a great metaphor.
And I think the massive internal friction we all face is that setting the goal actually feels incredibly good.
It's a trap.
It is a trap. Just imagining the island gives our brains a hit of dopamine. We get the emotional reward of achievement just by writing the New Year's resolution down on a piece of paper without having done any of the actual rowing.
Building on that rowboat metaphor, the underlying danger of goal-oriented thinking is that it can actively restrict your happiness and sabotage your long-term progress.
How so?
When you operate with a goal-first mentality, you are continually putting off happiness until the next milestone.
Sorry.
You tell yourself, once I reach my goal weight, then I'll be happy. Or once I get the promotion, then I can relax.
I do that all the time.
We all do. It creates a very toxic either-or conflict in your mind. Either you achieve your goal and you are a success, or you fail and you are a disappointment.
You literally lock yourself out of enjoying the journey.
Exactly. Furthermore, what happens when you actually achieve the goal?
The post-goal slump.
Yes. If all your hard work is focused on crossing a specific finish line, what is left to push you forward after you cross it?
Nothing.
This is exactly why so many people revert to their old bad habits after accomplishing a major goal. They ran the marathon, the race is over, the goal is achieved, so they immediately stop training and lose all their cardiovascular fitness.
Because the goal was the only structural integrity holding the system together.
Right.
Once the goal is removed, the system collapses.
Exactly. True long-term thinking is actually goalless thinking.
Goalless thinking.
It is not about any single monumental accomplishment. It is about the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement. It is about staying in the game.
Staying in the boat and rowing.
Ultimately, it is your commitment to the process that will determine your progress. You have to genuinely fall in love with the system itself, the daily act of rowing.
So if we are moving away from goals and focusing on systems, how does this actually help you, the listener, today?
Let's get tactical.
Yeah. If you're listening to this right now, maybe you're sitting at your desk or maybe you're making breakfast, I want you to try something. We need to ground this in reality.
Okay.
Stop thinking about the massive end goal you've been stressing over. Take your eyes off the island for a second.
Just look at the boat.
Look at your immediate surroundings. Look at your desk. Look at your calendar. Look at your literal morning routine right now. What is one tiny 1% point of friction you can eliminate today to make your system slightly better?
This is a great exercise.
Is your workspace cluttered with old coffee mugs and papers, making it subconsciously stressful to start working?
Is your phone sitting right next to your keyboard, face up, just begging to distract you while you try to write?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't try to change your entire life today. You don't need a new life goals. Just clear the desk.
Just take the phone, put it on silent, and place it in another room.
Find your equivalent of painting the British cycling truck white and make your system 1% smoother.
And taking that action, clearing the desk or moving the phone, naturally leads us to the deepest and most profound layer of behavior change discussed in the text.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
Because once you start auditing your systems and tweaking your daily actions, you inevitably run into a psychological barrier. We need to talk about identity
Identity.
and how habits are ultimately driven by how we see ourselves.
Right.
The source material outlines 3 layers of behavior change, and it uses the metaphor of an onion to describe them.
Okay, peel the onion for us.
The outermost layer of the onion is changing your outcomes. This is where most of society lives and breathes.
This is losing weight, publishing a book, winning a championship.
Exactly. The middle layer of the onion is changing your processes. This is implementing a new routine at the gym, or decluttering your desk like we just discussed, or developing a new studying system.
Got it. Outcomes and processes.
But the third and absolute deepest layer, the very core of the onion, is changing your identity.
The core.
This level is concerned with changing your beliefs, your worldview, your deep-seated self-image, and your judgments about yourself and others.
Okay, let me make sure I'm mapping this correctly. Outcomes are about what you get.
Right.
Processes are about what you do.
Yes.
But identity is about what you believe.
Precisely. And the core thesis here is that true habit change is, fundamentally, identity change.
That is a massive shift.
Most people begin the process of changing their habits by focusing entirely on what they want to achieve. This leads to outcome-based habits.
Which we know are fragile.
Very. The alternative, and the much more robust strategy, is to build identity-based habits. With this approach, we start by focusing on who we wish to become rather than what we want to achieve.
Who over what?
Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
That concept of casting a vote is so illuminating.
It really changes the framework.
It completely shifts the entire burden of willpower. It's the difference between saying, I'm trying to quit smoking and I'm not a smoker.
Exactly.
I want to paint a really vivid picture for the listener here to show how this plays out in real life.
Go for it.
Imagine you're out at a restaurant with friends on a Friday night. You've been operating under the outcome-based goal of trying to eat healthier so I can lose 10 pounds.
A very common scenario.
Right. The waiter hands you the menu. Because your identity hasn't changed, because deep down you still view yourself as someone who loves junk food but is currently depriving yourself.
You're white-knuckling it.
You are sitting there staring at the burger and fries on the menu, engaging in this agonizing, brutal, internal struggle of willpower. You are literally fighting yourself.
It's exhausting.
You are telling yourself, I really want the bacon cheeseburger, but I'm trying to lose weight, so I shouldn't. I should get the salad. You are burning cognitive energy just looking at the menu.
Right.
But if you have shifted to an identity-based habit, the internal dialogue changes completely. The decision shifts from a heavy struggle of willpower to a simple, almost detached observation.
You ask a different question.
You look at the menu and ask, what would a healthy person do?
And that is a brilliant real-world translation because it highlights how identity relieves the pressure of cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance, yeah.
Behavior that is incongruent with the self will simply not last. You may want more money, but if your deep-seated identity is someone who consumes rather than creates, then you will continually be pulled towards spending rather than earning.
You can't outrun your self-image.
No. You may want better health, but if you continue to prioritize comfort over accomplishment in your self-image, you'll be drawn to relaxing rather than training.
That makes total sense.
The author shares a story of a friend who lost over 100 pounds. Her entire strategy was asking herself exactly that question all day long. What would a healthy person do?
Wow.
Would a healthy person walk or take a cab? Would a healthy person order a burrito or a salad? She figured if she acted like a healthy person long enough, eventually she would become that person.
Like you till you make it, but with identity.
Exactly. She didn't rely on willpower. She relied on acting in accordance with a new identity.
It's like you're trying to install a brand new software program on an old, incompatible operating system.
That's a great way to put it.
If your operating system is, I am a lazy person
Yeah.
who hates exercise, installing the Run 3 miles a day software is going to crash the computer every single time.
Every time.
It just won't run.
That is a highly accurate way to frame it. The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It is one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It is something fundamentally different and far more powerful to say, I'm the type of person who is this. And this brings us to the continuous feedback loop between habits and identity. It's not a one-way street where you just decide on an identity and magically your habits change.
You can't just declare it.
Right. Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. Every time you write a page, you are a writer. Every time you practice the violin, you are a musician. Every time you start a workout, you are an athlete.
The votes are tallying up.
Exactly. When the evidence mounts up, the story you tell yourself begins to change.
And building on that, it connects deeply to the concept of pride.
Pride is a huge factor.
If you take genuine pride in a specific aspect of your identity, you naturally maintain it without it feeling like a chore. Like, if you take pride in having a meticulously manicured lawn, you will spend 2 hours on a Saturday pulling weeds and edging the grass, and it won't feel like a punishment.
It's a joy.
Right. If you take pride in the size of your biceps, you will never skip an upper body workout, no matter how tired you are. Once your pride gets involved, you will fight tooth and nail to maintain the habit, because to lose the habit would be to lose a piece of yourself.
Which is why the most practical advice for someone struggling to build a habit is to start small and gather evidence.
Start casting votes.
Yes, you cannot delusionally convince yourself you are a marathon runner if you haven't run a mile in 10 years. Your brain knows when you are lying to it.
Calls your bluff.
But you can start casting small votes. True behavior change is identity change. You might start a habit because of a burst of motivation, but the only reason you will stick with one over the long haul is that it becomes part of your identity.
So let's translate this into an action for the listener.
The tactical takeaway.
Yeah, stop focusing on the what for a moment. Don't focus on writing the book or running the marathon. I want you to define the exact type of person you want to be. The who.
Choose the identity.
Choose it. Say to yourself, I am a reliable person, or I am an observant partner, or I am an athlete. Pick that identity. And then your only job today is to deliberately cast one single tiny vote to prove that identity to yourself.
Give them an example.
Okay, if you decided your identity is, I am a reliable person, then your vote today is to reply to that email you've been putting off for 3 days. You just cast a vote. You didn't change the world, but you proved to yourself with undeniable physical evidence that you are who you say you are.
And if our daily actions are constantly casting votes for our identity, that brings up a terrifying question.
Uh-oh.
What happens when we are casting those votes completely unconsciously?
Oh, man.
Because while we like to believe we are in rational control of our choices, the reality is that the vast majority of our routines are running entirely on autopilot. We are casting votes for our future selves without even looking at the ballot.
Which brings us to the danger of autopilot. And honestly, this is the part of the research that freaked me out the most.
It is unsettling, but neurologically fascinating.
Let's get into it.
The source material explores how the brain is, at its core, a prediction machine. To save energy, your brain is continuously taking in your surroundings, analyzing the information, and trying to predict what will happen next without you having to consciously process it.
Because conscious thought burns too many calories.
Exactly. With enough practice, your brain will pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes entirely in the background.
Okay, tell the paramedic story.
Yes, there is a gripping story in the text about a paramedic attending a family gathering. She is standing there, relaxed, chatting, and she looks over at her father-in-law.
It's a normal party.
A normal party. He seems perfectly fine to everyone else in the room, but suddenly she gets this overwhelming, visceral sense of dread.
Just from looking at him.
Just a glance. She walks over to him and says, I don't like the way you look. You need to go to the hospital right now.
Wow.
A few hours later, he undergoes life-saving surgery for a major blockage in a coronary artery. He was literally minutes away from a massive, potentially fatal heart attack.
See, wait, let me stop you there. That is the kind of story that sounds like a psychic superpower.
It does.
She predicted a heart attack just by glancing at him over a bowl of potato chips at a party. How is that even biologically possible?
It wasn't magic. It was highly refined pattern recognition operating beneath conscious awareness.
Pattern recognition.
Her non-conscious mind, trained by years of working in emergency medicine, had cataloged the subtle, almost imperceptible visual cues of heart failure.
So she wasn't consciously diagnosing him.
Not at all. She couldn't immediately articulate what was wrong. She didn't consciously think, the blood distribution is shifting away from the skin's
Hmm.
surface. But her brain recognized the pattern of specific paleness and sweating. The autonomic nervous system in her brain made the prediction on autopilot and sent a warning signal in the form of dread.
That is incredible.
Now, while this is an amazing life-saving superpower for an experienced paramedic, it illustrates a mechanism that is incredibly dangerous when applied to our bad habits.
How so?
As habits form, your actions are handed off from the conscious analytical prefrontal cortex to the basal ganglia, which operates automatically. You fall into patterns before you even realize what is happening.
You essentially fall asleep at the wheel of your own life.
Exactly.
We become passengers in our own bodies. I mean, we've all had that experience of driving home from work, pulling into the driveway,
Yeah.
and realizing we have absolutely no memory of the last 15 minutes of the drive.
Highway hypnosis.
Yes, the brain just took over. And it completely explains this other story from the research that is, well, it's kind of hilarious, but deeply profound when you think about
The
it.
gift card story.
The gift card story. A retail clerk was given this routine task by her manager. Whenever a customer uses up a gift card, take the empty gift card, cut it in half with scissors, and throw it in the trash so it doesn't get reused.
Makes sense.
So she does this a few times in a row.
Yeah.
Swipe the gift card, zero balance, grab the scissors, cut it up.
Creating the pattern.
Yeah. Then the next customer walks up and hands her an actual physical credit card to pay for their items. And what does she do?
She stays on autopilot.
She swipes the customer's actual credit card, completes the transaction, picks up the scissors, and completely on autopilot cuts the customer's real credit card right in half.
Oh my goodness.
She didn't even realize what she was doing until she looked up and saw the stunned look on the customer's face. That is the basal ganglia hijacking the body.
It is a humorous example, but it illustrates a profound vulnerability in human psychology. When habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to what we are doing.
We just drift.
We assume the next time will be exactly like the last time. This is why it is so difficult to break bad habits. You cannot change a habit that you are completely blind to.
Right. You can't fight an invisible enemy.
The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. You have to find a way to drag these non-conscious behaviors out of the dark basal ganglia and back into the light of conscious awareness in the prefrontal cortex.
So how do we do that?
The text provides a fascinating real-world solution for this, utilized by the Japanese railway system.
The pointing and calling system. I am so glad we are talking about this because it sounds crazy, but it is brilliant.
It seems almost absurd to Western sensibilities when you first see it in action. Train operators in Japan physically point at different objects and verbally call out their status while driving the train.
Literally pointing.
Literally pointing. When the train approaches a signal, the operator will physically point at the signal and say out loud, "Signal is green."
Wow.
As the train pulls into and out of a station, operators will point at the speedometer and call out the exact speed. They point at the doors and say, "Doors closed."
It looks like an unnecessary theatrical performance.
But it is incredibly effective. The pointing and calling system reduces errors by up to 85% and cuts accidents by 30%.
30%.
Ah,
Because it forces the brain out of autopilot. It's a manual override.
exactly. It raises the level of awareness from a non-conscious habit to a highly conscious level. By pointing and speaking aloud, you are engaging the motor cortex, the speech centers, and your auditory processing all at once.
You can't do that asleep.
No, you force your brain to acknowledge the action before it is fully executed. You interrupt the automatic loop. We need to apply a personal version of pointing and calling to our own lives if we want to change our systems.
And this brings us to how you, the listener, can actually use this. I want you to try something tomorrow morning.
Let's do it.
The next time you wake up and start your day, try to actively audit your sequence. Notice what you do entirely on autopilot. Create a mental or physical habits scorecard.
A scorecard.
You wake up. What is the very first thing your hand does? Do you reach for your phone? Okay, acknowledge it. I am reaching for my phone. You open social media. I am opening Instagram. You go make coffee.
Pointing and calling your morning.
Just observe the sequence without judging yourself. Ask yourself, are these default actions net positive, net negative, or neutral? The goal isn't to beat yourself up over scrolling on your phone. The goal is simply to wake up. You are pointing and calling your own life, so you can finally see the system that is currently running you.
And that awareness is the absolutely necessary precursor to understanding how habits are actually constructed, which is the core framework of the book.
The 4 laws.
The 4 laws of behavior change. Once you are aware of your habits, you need to understand the anatomy behind them. Every single habit you have, good or bad, can be broken down into a 4-step neurological feedback loop.
Okay, let's hear the loop.
Cue, craving, response, and reward. This loop is happening constantly in fractions of a second.
Let's break down that loop because understanding the mechanics here is what allows you to start hacking the system. Cue, craving, response, reward.
The cue is the trigger. It signals your brain to initiate a behavior.
Like a notification on your phone.
Exactly. It is a piece of information that predicts a reward. Your mind is continuously analyzing your internal and external environment for hints of where rewards are located. Food, water, sex, social approval, entertainment.
We're constantly scanning.
The cue is the first indication that we are close to a reward. Naturally, noticing the cue leads to the second step, the craving.
The craving.
Cravings are the motivational force behind every habit. What is fascinating here is that what you crave is not the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers.
Oh, wait, elaborate on that.
You do not crave smoking a cigarette. You crave the feeling of relief from nicotine withdrawal. You do not crave turning on the television. You crave the feeling of being entertained and distracted from your stress.
That distinction is huge. You don't want the action, you want the state change. The cue triggers the craving for that state change.
Exactly. And the third step is the response. This is the actual habit you perform, the action you take, which can be physical or mental.
The thing you actually do.
Right. Whether a response actually occurs depends on how motivated you are by the craving and how much friction is associated with the behavior. If the effort required to take the action is higher than your motivation, you won't do it.
Right.
Finally, the response delivers a reward. Rewards are the end goal of every habit. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward.
It's a closed loop.
We chase rewards because they serve 2 evolutionary purposes. They satisfy our craving in the moment, and they teach our brain which actions are worth remembering for the future.
So, to use an example we all know too well, your phone buzzes on the desk. That is the cue.
Yes.
The buzz triggers a desire to know who messaged you or what notification you got.
Yeah.
That is the craving.
Correct.
You reach over, grab the phone, and read the message. That is the response. You satisfy the desire to know, which relieves the tension of curiosity. That is the reward.
Perfect example.
And because that loop was closed successfully, the next time the phone buzzes, your brain automatically fires up the exact same sequence.
Precisely. Now, the genius of the source material is taking this biological 4-step loop and translating it into a practical, actionable framework for behavioral change called the 4 laws.
Okay, the 4 laws. Let's list them.
If you want to build a good habit, you follow the 4 laws. 1, make it obvious, which targets the cue.
Make it obvious.
2, make it attractive, targeting the craving.
Make it attractive.
3, make it easy, targeting the response.
We'll make it easy.
And 4, make it satisfying, targeting the reward.
Make it satisfying. And breaking a bad habit is just the opposite.
Yes, you simply invert the laws. Make the cue invisible, make the craving unattractive, make the response difficult, and make the reward unsatisfying.
Let's dive deep into Law 1. Make it obvious. Because there is a phenomenon discussed in the book that explains so much of our irrational behavior.
Yes. To understand why we need to make cues obvious, we should look at the Diderot effect.
The Diderot effect, okay.
Denis Diderot was a famous French philosopher in the 18th century who lived in relative poverty for most of his life.
Okay, a poor philosopher.
But in 1765, Catherine the Great, the Empress of Russia, heard of his financial troubles and offered to buy his personal library for a massive sum of money.
Wow.
Suddenly, Diderot had immense wealth. Shortly after, he acquired a beautiful, incredibly luxurious scarlet robe.
Just treating himself.
But as he wore his beautiful new robe around his modest apartment, he noticed that the rest of his possessions looked shabby and inadequate in comparison.
I see where this is going.
The robe didn't match the cheap furniture, so he bought a new, expensive rug. Then he felt he needed sculptures to match the rug. Then he bought a new mirror. He bought a new leather chair.
It never ends.
It was a rapid chain reaction of purchases, all triggered by the one robe.
The Diderot effect. We have all been victims of this. I mean, you buy a new couch for your living room, and suddenly the old rug looks terrible, so you go buy a new rug.
Right.
And then the curtains don't match the new rug, so you buy curtains, and suddenly you spent $3,000 because of one couch.
It's an endless spiral. It is a spiral. And the Diderot effect states that obtaining a new possession often creates a spiral of consumption that leads to additional purchases.
But how does this relate to habits?
The deeper psychological insight is that this applies to all human behavior, not just shopping. No behavior happens in isolation.
Everything is connected.
Each action becomes a cue that triggers the next behavior. Going to the bathroom leads to washing your hands, which reminds you that you need to wash the dirty towels, which leads to you taking them to the laundry room, which makes you realize you need laundry detergent, so you add it to the shopping list.
It's a domino effect.
Your behavior is a continuous, interconnected chain.
So if our behavior naturally cascades like this, how do we harness it? How do I use the Diderot effect to build a good habit instead of just buying too much furniture?
We use a strategy called habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Since you already have sequences of habits running on autopilot, like the chain reaction we just described, you can use the momentum of that existing chain to build a new habit.
Okay.
Instead of trying to pair your new habit with a specific time and location, which is easily forgotten, you pair it with a current habit that you already do every single day.
Oh, I like that.
The formula is beautifully simple. After I do my current habit, I will do my new habit. You are making the cue for the new habit glaringly obvious by tying it to something you can't avoid doing.
This is where goal setting usually falls apart. People set vague goals like, I'm going to exercise more, or I'm going to read more.
Right, there's no trigger.
Those statements are just floating in the ether. They have no anchor in your reality. When are you going to read?
Yeah.
Where?
Okay.
Habit stacking solves this.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, I'll read more today, you create a stack. After I pour my morning cup of coffee, I will read one page of a book.
Yes.
Pouring the coffee is something you do every single morning without fail. Your brain has a rock-solid, heavily myelinated neural pathway for making coffee. You are just hitching your new fragile habit of reading onto the back of that massive, unstoppable freight train.
Exactly. The reason habit stacking works so well is that your current habits are already deeply wired into your brain. By linking your new habit to a cycle that is already built into your neurology, you make it highly likely that you will actually execute the new behavior.
Let's move to Law 2. Make it attractive, which deals with the craving step of the loop.
The craving phase.
The book talks about a concept called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling, yes.
The idea of pairing an action you want to do with an action you need to do. Like telling yourself you can only watch your favorite Netflix show if you're walking on the treadmill.
A classic example.
Now, I have to be honest, I want to push back on this.
Okay, let's hear the realist perspective.
Because I've tried this, and my brain is too smart for it. Doesn't the human brain eventually just figure out the cheat code? Won't I eventually just sit on the couch, eat chips, and watch Netflix anyway, completely bypassing the treadmill? Does it really work long term?
It is a very valid skepticism, and you are right that if the friction of the treadmill is too high, temptation bundling can fail. The brain will seek the path of least resistance.
Always.
However, the underlying neuroscience of temptation bundling is solid, and it relies on understanding exactly how dopamine works in the human brain.
Okay, lay some neuroscience on me.
We live in a modern world filled with supernormal stimuli, highly engineered versions of reality that spike our dopamine to unnatural levels. Junk food packed with salt and sugar, video games, social media algorithms designed by engineers to keep us scrolling.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
When dopamine rises, our motivation to act rises with it. But here is the critical, counterintuitive insight from neuroscientists. Dopamine is released not just when you experience pleasure, but when you anticipate it.
Right, really, the anticipation.
In fact, the dopamine spike of anticipation is often higher than the spike of the actual reward. Gambling addicts experience a massive dopamine surge right before they place the bet, or while the roulette wheel is spinning, not after they win.
That is fascinating. It's the anticipation, the craving, that actually drives the physical action.
Yes. Temptation bundling works by hacking this exact circuitry. By linking an action you want to do, which naturally spikes your dopamine, with an action you need to do, you effectively transfer the dopamine spike of anticipation from the want to the need.
I see.
Let's say you want to check social media, but you need to exercise. You create a bundle. After I pull out my phone, I will do 10 burpees. After I do 10 burpees, I will check social media.
That sounds miserable at first.
In the beginning, you were forcing it, but over time, your brain begins to associate the physical act of the 10 burpees with the impending, guaranteed dopamine hit of social media. The anticipation of checking your phone actually makes the burpees themselves feel attractive.
You are literally weaponizing your own neurochemistry to make hard things feel rewarding.
Precisely.
But this relies on the hard thing not being too hard, which leads us to Law 3.
Yeah.
Make it easy.
Targeting the response.
Right. This deals with the response phase of the loop. And the book explores the law of least effort and a concept called the 2-minute rule.
The law of least effort is a fundamental principle of physics and biology. Human behavior naturally follows the path of least resistance.
We are inherently lazy.
We will instinctively gravitate toward the option that requires the least amount of work. From an evolutionary standpoint, energy is precious, and the brain is wired to conserve it whenever possible to ensure survival.
Burn as few calories as possible.
Exactly. This means that if you want to build a good habit, you need to ruthlessly reduce the friction associated with it. When friction is low, habits are easy.
Which brings us to the concept of environment design, making the right choice the easiest choice.
Yes. And there is a brilliant study from Massachusetts General Hospital that proves this. A physician named Anne Thorndike wanted to improve the eating and drinking habits of thousands of hospital staff and visitors.
A noble goal.
But she wanted to do it without changing their willpower, without educating them, and without motivating them.
Just purely through the environment.
She simply changed the architecture of the cafeteria. Originally, the refrigerators next to the cash registers were filled exclusively with soda.
Of course.
She altered the environment by adding bottled water to those refrigerators. Furthermore, she placed baskets of bottled water throughout the various food stations in the room.
Very subtle.
Over the next 3 months, soda sales dropped by 11.4%, and bottled water sales increased by 25.8%.
Wow.
Nobody said a single word to anyone. There were no anti-soda posters. They just made the better choice easier to reach. They reduced the friction.
So, translating this to our own lives. If you are trying to go to the gym after work, but your gym clothes are buried in the back of your closet, and your gym is a 20-minute drive in the opposite direction of your house in rush hour traffic.
The friction is massive.
You are fighting the couch, you are fighting the closet, you are fighting traffic. Your brain calculates the energy expenditure and says, nope, we're staying home.
The law of least effort kicks in.
Instead of fighting all of that with pure willpower, you have to prime your environment. You lay your gym clothes out right next to your bed or in your car. You sign up for a gym that is literally on the exact route of your commute home. You make the good habit the path of least resistance.
Exactly. Redesign your life so the actions that matter most are also the actions that are easiest to do. But even with perfect environment design, starting a brand new habit can feel emotionally daunting.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where we introduce the master strategy for the third law, the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule.
The rule states, when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do.
Okay, here's where the realist in me has to interject.
I knew this was coming.
I have seen this rule everywhere, and I have to express some extreme skepticism. Read before bed becomes read 1 page, do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat, run 3 miles becomes tie my running shoes. I tried this once with playing the guitar. My goal was practice for 30 minutes, so I downscaled it to hold the guitar for 2 minutes. I sat there holding the guitar, not playing anything, and I felt completely ridiculous.
It does feel silly at first.
Doing 1 push-up or reading 1 single page feels entirely useless. Who gets hyped about doing 1 push-up? How is tying my shoes going to get me in cardiovascular shape for a marathon? Feels like you are just playing a semantic trick on yourself.
It does feel like a trick, and your reaction is incredibly common. People often think it's weird to get hyped about reading 1 page or meditating for 60 seconds. But your skepticism focuses entirely on the outcome, not the system.
Okay, elaborate.
The point of the 2-minute rule is not the single push-up. The single push-up will not build muscle. The point is mastering the habit of showing up.
Mastering showing
A
up.
habit must be established before it can be improved. You cannot optimize a habit that does not exist.
Oh, man. You have to standardize before you can optimize.
Precisely. If you cannot learn the basic fundamental skill of showing up consistently every day, then you have absolutely no hope of mastering the finer details of a complex routine.
That's a gut punch.
We all expect to be able to jump straight into the optimized, difficult 90-minute version of a habit. But a new habit should not feel like a challenge. The actions that follow the first 2 minutes can be challenging, but the first 2 minutes should be incredibly easy.
I see.
What you are doing is creating a gateway habit that naturally leads you down a more productive path. Remember what we discussed earlier. Every action is a vote for your identity.
Right, the votes.
Tying your running shoes every day for a week casts 7 undeniable votes for the identity of an athlete. You are proving to yourself that you are someone who shows up.
That actually shifts the perspective completely. It removes the massive pressure of, I have to suffer through a painful 3-mile run today, and replaces it with, I just have to be the kind of person who puts on the shoes.
It lowers the emotional barrier to entry.
Once the shoes are on, the law of least effort often takes over in a positive way. You're already wearing the running shoes, so you might as well step outside. You're already outside, so you might as well walk around the block. You're walking, so you might as well jog to the corner. The physical inertia shifts from working against you to working for you.
And as you master the art of showing up, those first 2 minutes simply become a ritual at the beginning of a larger routine. By doing the same exact warm-up before every workout, you make it easier to get into a state of peak performance. You make it exceptionally easy to start, and trust that the rest will follow.
Which brings us to the fourth law, which is often the hardest one for modern humans to grasp. Make it satisfying.
The reward phase.
This deals with the reward phase of the habit loop. If the first 3 laws increase the odds that a behavior will be performed this time, the fourth law increases the odds that a behavior will be repeated next time.
Yes, and to understand the fourth law, we have to look at human evolution. We evolved in what scientists call an immediate return environment.
Immediate return.
For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors' actions resulted in immediate outcomes. You forage for berries, you eat them, you immediately satiate your hunger, you run from a predator, you survive. The human brain is heavily wired to prioritize immediate rewards.
Also because it kept us alive.
Exactly. However, modern society is a delayed return environment. You work today, but you get a paycheck in 2 weeks. You save money today, but you don't get to retire for 40 years. You eat a salad today, but you don't lose the weight for 6 months.
There is a massive mismatch between how our brains are wired and the environment we live in.
Huge mismatch.
Which perfectly explains why bad habits are so easy to form. The immediate reward of eating a donut is delicious sugar. The delayed consequence is weight gain. The immediate consequence of going to the gym is sweating and muscle pain. The delayed reward is health. The brain naturally chooses the donut.
Exactly. With bad habits, the immediate outcome usually feels good, but the ultimate outcome feels bad. With good habits, the reverse is true. The immediate outcome is often unenjoyable, but the ultimate outcome feels good.
So the challenge is, how do we make it satisfying when the real reward is months or years away?
We have to artificially attach an immediate reward to the good habit.
How do we do that without sabotaging the habit itself? I mean, you can't reward a workout by eating a pint of ice cream.
No, that defeats the purpose. One of the most effective ways is visual measurement.
Visual measurement.
The author discusses the paperclip strategy. A stockbroker named Trent Dearsmid used this to massive success. Every morning, he would place 2 jars on his desk. One jar was filled with 120 paperclips. The other jar was empty.
Okay, 2 jars.
Every time he made a sales call, he would move 1 paperclip from the full jar to the empty jar. The simple physical act of moving the paperclip provided an immediate, satisfying visual reward for a behavior that wouldn't yield financial results for months.
Oh, that's clever.
Visual progress is incredibly satisfying to the human brain. Habit trackers, crossing days off a calendar, or moving paperclips, they provide the immediate satisfaction required to keep the habit loop spinning until the delayed rewards finally arrive.
And obviously, if we want to break a bad habit, we invert all of this.
You're right.
We make it invisible by unfollowing triggering accounts on social media or throwing away the junk food. We make it unattractive by reframing how we think about it, focusing on the disgust of smoking rather than the relief. We make it difficult by increasing friction, like putting our phone in another room or giving the TV remote to a roommate. And we make it unsatisfying by utilizing an accountability partner or a habit contract, so that if we fail, there's an immediate painful social or financial cost.
That is the complete architecture of behavior change. But if we synthesize everything we have discussed today, we move into our final thoughts and the true legacy of this book.
Let's get into the synthesis.
This is not just a collection of life hacks or productivity tricks. It is a fundamental paradigm shift in how we view success, failure, and personal growth. To truly grasp the power of atomic habits, we have to look at the Sorite's paradox.
The Sorite's paradox.
It's an ancient Greek parable. It asks a deceptively simple question. Can one single coin make a person rich? Right. If you give a person a pile of 10 coins, you wouldn't call that person rich. But what if you add another coin, and another, and another? At some point, you will have to admit that no one can be rich unless one coin can make him so.
It's the exact same logic as atomic habits. Can one tiny 1% change transform your life? Can reading one page or doing one push-up change who you are? In isolation, it's unlikely you would say so. But if you continue to layer small changes on top of one another, the scales of life slowly start to move.
That's the power of compounding.
Each improvement is like adding a grain of sand to the positive side of a massive scale, slowly, agonizingly tilting things in your favor.
But there is a trap here, and it is vital we discuss it because this trap is where most people quit.
The valley of disappointment.
Yes, what the author calls the plateau of latent potential, which many people experience as the valley of disappointment. When we start a new habit, because we are so conditioned by immediate return environments, we expect linear progress.
We want results now.
We think we should see results immediately. If I run for 3 days, I should see a change on the scale. But real compounding change does not work that way. The most powerful outcomes of any compounding process are heavily delayed.
It's the ice cube metaphor in the book, and this metaphor is what finally made all of this click for me.
Walk us through it.
Imagine you have an ice cube sitting on a table in a room that is currently 25 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
You want to melt the ice cube, so you put in the work, you heat the room up, 26 degrees, 27, 28 degrees.
Still frozen.
You look at the ice cube, it just sits there, nothing is happening. You keep working, 29, 30, 31 degrees, still absolutely nothing.
And this is where people quit.
You are frustrated. You are in the valley of disappointment. You feel like all your effort is wasted. And then you hit 32 degrees. The ice begins to melt. A 1-degree shift, seemingly no different from the temperature increases before it, unlocked a massive state change.
That is the perfect illustration. The work you put in at 26 and 28 and 30 degrees was not wasted. It was just being stored.
Stored energy.
It was latent potential. All the visible action happens at 32 degrees. When people quit a good habit because they don't see results after a month, they're essentially complaining about the ice cube not melting when they heated it from 25 to 31 degrees.
Such a good way to look at it.
You have to survive the valley of disappointment. You have to trust the system over the outcome. Change can take years of stored energy before it happens all at once, like an earthquake violently erupting after millions of years of tectonic plates silently grinding against each other underground.
This requires a massive mindset shift. Because what we are really saying is that the greatest threat to success isn't failure. We're all terrified of failing. We think failure is what stops us.
But it's not.
But failure isn't the enemy. The greatest threat to success is actually boredom.
Boredom. Yeah.
As habits become routine, they become less interesting and less satisfying. We get bored. The dopamine hit fades. And the difference between professionals and amateurs isn't just natural talent or genetics. The difference is that professionals stick to the schedule, even when it's annoying, repetitive, and unglamorous.
They push through the mundane.
Professionals work through the boredom. Amateurs let life get in the way when the novelty wears off. You have to fall in love with boredom. You have to find endless fascination in doing the exact same thing over and over again.
That is the ultimate price of mastery. The secret to getting results that last is to never stop making those 1% improvements. It's truly remarkable what you can build if you just don't stop.
So we've covered the aggregation of marginal gains, the myth of goals, identity-based habits, the danger of the basal ganglia running on autopilot, habit stacking, the 2-minute rule, and surviving the valley of disappointment.
How do we leave the listener with something to chew on as they go about their day?
I want to leave everyone with a final provocative thought.
Let's hear it. We've established that every tiny automatic action is a vote for the type of person you are becoming. And we know that your systems are running much of your life in the dark.
Right.
So consider this. If you were to consciously stop casting good votes today, if you completely stopped trying to impose willpower, stopped setting goals, and just let your default unthinking systems run entirely unchecked for the next 5 years.
Oh boy.
What does your default baseline say about the identity you've already locked in? Who is your autopilot currently designed to become, and are you truly comfortable with that person?
Wow. Are you comfortable with who your autopilot is designed to become? That is a heavy question to end on, but a necessary one. If your autopilot is currently steering you toward a destination you don't like, remember the British cycling team.
We turned it around.
110 years of absolute failure, completely reversed in half a decade. Not by sweeping dramatic changes, but by aggressively searching for 1% improvements, rubbing alcohol on tires, painting the truck white.
The power to change your trajectory is not in the massive goals you set for tomorrow. It is in the atomic habits you execute today.
It is about changing the architecture of your daily life so that good decisions become inevitable and bad decisions become impossible. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of your life. Take that 2-minute rule, find your existing anchors, build a habit stack, and go out and cast a new vote for your identity today. Catch you next time.